It's Monday, so that means it's time for another edition of 3 Point Stands presented by Mountain Dew. Meghan, Triplett, John Roser here with you to talk about the week that was and the week that's coming up, because there is so much going on when it comes to the NBA. And so this one is a full-on NBA 3 Point Stands. And Roser, let's start with the Memphis Grizzlies for where things are playing out. They got 5 games left, but they got a win on Saturday against the Toronto Raptors in Tampa. That was a much needed win, and we got a chance to see Jaren Jackson Jr. back in that starting lineup.
Yeah, you got Jaren back in the starting lineup. Let's look. You never want to complain about a win. A win is a win, but I mean, there's still something off. You could tell. It didn't. I mean, that's a Toronto team that was down 3 or 4 starters. Siakam left the game midway through and didn't come. I mean, that's the team you needed, and they moved the ball well on that possession. They got Kyle Anderson that shot when Kyle Anderson made that bucket that officially sealed it. But you really, like DeAnthony Melton. Thank you, DeAnthony Melton. Like, he went bonkers in the fourth quarter and was kind of the DeAnthony that we had seen, last month. But there's still something off with it. That looks a little off, but it looks like they're trying to get it back, and we'll see if they do. They got the win, which they desperately needed a win, so that was good to see. And you have your nemesis who beats the living hell out of you every time you play them in the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. And I know people are like, well, Zion's not there. I mean, I don't know how much that really matters. Like, that this team has beaten the crap out of you without Zion before. So it'll be interesting to see what if we can see the energy for 48 minutes, because even though they got the win over Toronto, we didn't see it there. They got up pretty good in that fourth quarter, and then they let Toronto, Tampa come right back into it and make it a really close game to where you needed DeAnthony Melton doing what he did, and you needed Kyle Anderson to make that last shot. So that's the thing I want to see tonight is the 48 minutes. Look, it's going to be impossible to have your 100% focus and not give up some, and not have some mistakes in 48 minutes. But I want to see more consistency in tonight's game.
Yeah, I think what Coach Meghan said that I liked against that Toronto Raptors on Saturday was that this is just a step. This was just a start, because you wanted to you had a bounce back after what happened against Detroit. And you end the road trip 2-1, and that's a great way to kind of end the road trip. But now you're going to get really tested to play here at home when how things are shaping out when it comes to the standings and the play-in tournament. That is so crucial. And it was great to see Jaren back in that starting lineup. So you do hope that this is a good start, especially with these next 4 games, and to get those minutes under his belt. But you still got some issues. You want to get back to playing Grizzlies type of basketball, and you hope that you get back to your points in the paint. The defense has to be there. You got to play the full 48 minutes. And now is your chance to be at home and to hopefully get a better home record too, to get some wins here at home as you take on some of these teams that's coming up where these games matter. Roser, I don't know, you might have a different perspective on the play-in tournament. You might like it or don't like it, but for this week, these games matter, and there's so much on the line with where people are situated, because nobody wants to play in the play-in tournament. So if you're the Lakers, if you're Boston Celtics, a lot matters for this week.
Yeah, no, I think, look, I love the play-in tournament, because if that didn't exist, then right now the Grizzlies would be on the outside looking in, because they're sitting a half game back from the Golden State Warriors in that 8th spot. I think the team to look out for in these playoffs that I would not want to face, and right now, a team that's been playing really good ball. They got the 2 wins over the Brooklyn Nets last week. Is the Milwaukee Bucks, but you saw what the Miami Heat did to the Boston Celtics yesterday, and just how good they look when Jimmy Butler is in that lineup. And right now, the Miami Heat would be playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round to be a rematch of what was at the Eastern semis last year. That's the team that I would not want to see if I look at the standings right now. If I'm in the East, the team I don't want to see in that first round is the Miami Heat, because we do know what they are capable of. And then you look at the Lakers, and the Lakers got a much-needed win over the Phoenix Suns. Anthony Davis, absolutely just a monster. So the Lakers are still sitting in that play-in game, but they're only a game back of Portland. Like but they need to fully jump them though. The Clippers, who knows with them? They look awesome one day, and then they will look awesome for 4 games, and then they'll look blah for 4 games. But they're in the 3 right now against the matchup against the Blazers. But if they fall to 4, we could get a potential rematch of last year's first round between the Clippers and the Mavericks, which brought us I think that was the moment of the playoffs. When I think of the playoffs in the bubble last year, the first thing that comes to my mind is that shot that Luka Doncic hit, that step back 3 to win the game. That's the shot that I think of. So look, there's a lot of things that can happen here in the final week of the season. Can the Grizzlies jump the Warriors and get 8? I don't know because,
it's very interesting. I mean, all the teams that you mentioned are the teams that I'm looking out for. And you talk about, can the Grizzlies jump the Warriors? It'll be very interesting if it plays out with the Lakers at 7 and the Warriors at 8, and you very well get a play in that first playing game against Steph and LeBron. When LeBron comes back, I know he's predicted to come back this week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. That will be very interesting. And for the Celtics, I think for the Celtics, once again, for them to make it to the play-in tournament, you know how Celtics fans are, and you know the expectations that Celtics have. Their expectations are very high to say you do not need to be in a play-in tournament, and that's where they sit right now. It's you would have thought that they would have been, in that higher up of like the 4 or 5 seed for the Eastern Conference. And the Eastern Conference is a jam-packed conference now with a lot of talent and a lot of competition.
The team we didn't mention that you really don't want to see. I mentioned the Miami Heat, obviously, that's in the top 6. That's tough. The Washington Wizards. What Russell Westbrook is doing and what the Wizards are doing right now, like that of the teams, the 4 teams in the play-in in the East, the Boston Celtics, the Charlotte Hornets, the Wizards, and the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, Indiana is just falling off the face of the earth. It would be Washington would be the team I don't want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to see Bradley Beal be able to have like a 50.9 and a Russell Westbrook still getting a triple-double. It's all interesting, but it makes this week so entertaining, and that is what the play-in tournament brings. It brings a lot of fun, and it brings a lot of madness. Okay, we have a quick minute to talk about the MVP race, because that is something. There's so many names being thrown out, and there's so many talented guys. But in your perspective, who you got for the MVP if it was to be picked today?
It appears like it's going to be Nikola Jokic. I'm sticking with Chris Paul to me. Chris Paul is still my MVP, but I will say this. The Golden State Warriors, when Steph Curry is in there, they are 34-26, and that is not a good roster. But when he plays, they're 34-26. They are 1-7 without him.
That is true. Okay, so you say Nikola. I agree with you. It seems that way. I think Joel Embiid is also a candidate that you got to be looking out for. And we talked about it on Rise and Grind. Russell Westbrook, and I get it for the Washington Wizards and for where they are and what the team represents and for how they play this season. But my goodness, this guy and these triple doubles. Like, I do think at some point, as you watch him more, you're like, we should just be like saying his name, or I think he should be somewhere in it, because we might not see a season like this and numbers like this as we see for many, many years. It is unbelievable what he's been doing. And there's just the MVP. It's only one person can win it. It depends on your definition of MVP. But I think this year is going to be a tough year to figure out who could get it. I'm just excited, though. It's an exciting season. It's exciting. And that's all the time we have for this edition of 3 Point Stands presented by Mountain Dew. Make sure you are locked in on Valley Sports Southeast for the Grizzlies and just the NBA in general. It's going to be a busy week, but an exciting week.